Good day there, people. So today's episode is all about swords. I'm going to take you through from how to get kind of a jump start on swords in the early game, all the way to getting the Terra Blade, which is one of the late game swords, one of the best swords in the game. If you're on console or mobile, it's the best sword. If you're on PC, it's just one of the best swords. So I'm going to take you all the way through. Um, First of all, starting out, oh yes, and there's a big upgrade path involved here, so that's kind of the point of this as well, that you can get some swords earlier in the game that are going to, carry through with some upgrades all the way to later in the game. So, if you're just starting out, early game, say you've just gotten into a new world, of course you can make your first sword out of wood, or you can make some beginning swords out of ore. There's always going to be your ore swords throughout the game, but there's alternatives that can give you a head start. So one of those is when your traveling merchant first shows up, you can buy the katana from him for 4 gold, and that is a pretty good early game starting out sword. You can also go around looking for floating islands, which is what I did, and hence I have my Starfury. Let me mention as well, part of this is going to play into the solar eclipse, and I went through that in my last episode, getting broken hero swords and some other stuff. I did get a really cool drop here, which is the second best yo-yo in the game, the Eye of Cthulhu yo-yo. Just wanted to point that out. I also got a Psycho Knife and a Moonstone, so those are going to come into play later, but this is what I'm telling you about right now. If you go back and watch my early videos, not my best work, but I was using this a lot. The Starfury carried me through most of the pre-hard mode stage of the game. So I have a little nostalgia for that. But basically, you're going to find that by looking for floating islands. I'm not going to get into how to do that. Hint, gravitation potion personally is my favorite way of finding them. Um, but yeah, if you can get up to a floating island, you can find that fairly early on. And then from there, you can also look for sword shrines, which give you a chance of getting an enchanted sword or an Arkhalis. So any of those, Katana, Starfury, enchanted sword, or Arkhalis, those are good ways to get a jump early in the game. But that's basically as far as we're going to go with those. Now from there, that's where things get a little interesting. You can craft the Light's Bane, of course. This is something that's probably going to happen. It's going to be an opportunity just by playing through the game, because it's just crafted out of 10 Demonite bars. Or if your world has Crimson instead of Corruption, then you're going to want to go for the Blood Butcherer, which is 10 Crimtane bars. So either way, it's 30 ore on PC or 40 ore on console and mobile at the moment. It's crafted at your anvil. You can get Demonite ore or Crimtane ore most easily by defeating some of the bosses. The Eye of Cthulhu is probably the first one that you're going to fight. The Eater of Worlds if you have corruption in your world, or the Brain of Cthulhu if you have crimson. You might get enough simply from defeating the Eye of Cthulhu alone, because that drops 30 to 87 of either a Demonite or Crimtane, depending on which one is in your world. So of course, I've done all that long ago. I've got my Demonite bars, so let's just go ahead and craft this. This is going to become important. The Light's Bane. It's a decent sword. It's a little better than some of the other, well, any of the other ore-based swords you're going to get before hard mode. So you can see I got a superior one, but the base damage is 17. Anyway, it's a decent sword, which is craftable. But another thing is the Muramasa. So once you've gotten into the dungeon, you can find a Muramasa in any of the chests in the dungeon. It's any of the locked gold chests. There's a chance that it'll be in there. You can also get it from a golden lockbox by fishing in the dungeon. It's again, it's fast and reasonable damage. So you can see Muramasa is pretty fast. Actually, let me swap that out. The Light's Bane. You can see that's a little slower, but it's a little higher damage, I think. Actually, no, it's not. The Muramasa, I think, is simply better. Now, you'll notice I have some jungle spores and some stingers here, because one of the swords you can craft relatively early in the game, which I find is a pretty powerful one, is the Blade of Grass. You can see that's got a much higher damage than either of these two. That one's 19. The base for the Light's Bane is actually 17. So the Blade of Grass is going to be 12 jungle spores and 12 stingers, or if you're on console or mobile, it's 15 stingers in place of 12 there. but same 12 jungle spores. You can actually get this by collecting jungle spores and stingers in the jungle fairly early in the game, and as you can see, it's a little more powerful. It's a little slower, but higher damage. So let's stick that in there. And you can see it's a big sword as well. It has a pretty decent reach. And moving right along, so basically any of these you can use at those points in the game, but the thing is you're going to want all of these and you're going to want one more. So I'll tell you why in a second. The Light's Bane, the Muramasa, so Light's Bane from the Demonite, Muramasa you'll find in the dungeon after you defeat Skeletron, of course, and the Blade of Grass you can craft with those materials from the jungle. Then once you get down into Hell, you can craft the Fiery Greatsword, which is a little stronger yet than the Blade of Grass. You can see the base is 36 damage, and it's also a little slower though, so let's just check that out. So this is all still pre-hard mode, and you can see it's got a cool sparkly effect. So all of those you can do, but the important thing is to get all 4 of those. So Light's Bane, Muramasa, Blade of Grass, and the Fiery Greatsword. Now, this doesn't give me any options here. What I need to do is, all of those are crafted at the anvil, and most of your swords will be, but actually, let's just see. Does he happen to have the Katana? No, I'm pretty late in the game for that. But what we'll need to do is head to our Demon Altar or our Crimson Altar to combine these 4 swords into the most powerful sword you can get before hard mode, which is the Knight's Edge. And look how much, it's another 6 damage over the Fire Greatsword, but most importantly, it's also faster. So you can see it's crafted from the Light's Bane, the Muramasa, the Blade of Grass, and the Fiery Greatsword. And the advantage here is that it's faster than the Blade of Grass or the Fiery Greatsword, and it's higher damage than any of its ingredients. So there we go. All those swords are gone, and I now have the Knight's Edge. And that is, again, that's the strongest sword you can get before hard mode. You can see even at this point in the game, I mean, it's not that strong now, but it will carry you well into hard mode, actually. And that's going to be important as well, because this sword continues to be upgradable. And so let's go ahead and have a look at how we're going to take that. Once we're in hard mode, because that's the strongest sword we can get before hard mode, we can continue on from there. So the next thing you're going to want to do is, once you're in hard mode, you'll want to make your Excalibur. And you can see that's a step up, a definite step up. And of course you have new ores once you're in hard mode, and you can make new ore-based swords, but I would say if you've got the Knight's Edge, you can skip past all of those until you get to the Excalibur, which is made of 12 hallowed bars. You get hallowed bars by defeating any of the mechanical bosses. So defeat one of those and you might get enough bars for this. It's 12 bars. They just drop bars, so there's no ore involved exactly. But there we go. We can stick that in now. And that's a decent little sword. It's stronger actually and a little faster than the adamantite or titanium swords. Not by much, but a bit. It's a good alternative, and because it's also part of this whole upgrade process, I would recommend you go for that. Now, my last episode, of course, was on the broken hero swords. So there's a very important reason that you need those. And you can see I've got a couple more crafting options here, because I've already gone ahead and gotten a couple of those. So the broken hero sword, you can go watch my other video if you want more details, but basically it's dropped during the solar eclipse. If you're on console or mobile, you'll get those by fighting Frankensteins and Swamp Things, at least until they release the next update. But for the time being, you fight Frankensteins and Swamp Things, you get a very low chance of getting a broken hero sword. On PC, since the 1.3 update, you'll be fighting Mothron. So on console and mobile, at this point, you can actually do this after defeating any one of the mechanical bosses, because that's when the solar eclipse starts to happen, and you can fight those 2 enemies. On PC at this point, you have to defeat all 3 mechanical bosses to fight Mothron, and every Mothron has a 25% chance of dropping Broken Hero Sword, as well as, by the way, once you defeat Plantera, I think it is, this Eye of Cthulhu, which is pretty cool. So anyway, you'll need two of those broken hero swords. You can use one of them with either of these swords, with the Excalibur or the Knight's Edge, because you can craft the true Excalibur from the Excalibur and a broken hero sword. So you can see here, the Excalibur itself is 58 melee damage, and it's fast. The true Excalibur is 67 and very fast. So it's definitely an upgrade. It's not a huge upgrade, well, except that it's got a projectile. So that makes it a pretty good upgrade, actually, just as far as that. Now, that Knight's Edge that you went to all that trouble to make before hard mode, you can now upgrade that. And you can see the Knight's Edge itself, 42 melee damage, add a broken hero sword, and you get the true Knight's Edge, all the way from 42 to 91 damage. And it's similar speed, actually, but let's go ahead and show you that. And you can see it also has a projectile. So going to all this trouble nets you some nice benefits, because not only do you get a way more powerful sword, but it fires projectiles, so you can even use your melee at a distance, and your melee bonuses do apply to projectiles from a melee weapon. Now, this is the progression I'm talking about, because you take that true Excalibur, which required one broken hero sword, and the true Knight's Edge, which required the second broken hero sword, and you can now craft the Terra Blade. If you're on console and mobile, this is the strongest sword in the game. If you're on PC at this point, there are 2 or 3 swords that are stronger, but they're very late in the game that you're going to get those. So this is still one of the strongest in the game. And again, it's a progression from, fairly close to the beginning of the game all the way up to this sword. And I just got an achievement because I hadn't actually made this yet. That's your Terrablade. And basically, again, it's got advantages over its ingredients. So you get very strong sword that was a base of 98, which is stronger yet than the True Knight's Edge. And look at that. It's very fast and lots of projectiles. So there we go. That was basically the point of this right there. Now, on console and mobile, you're going to need a third broken hero sword to make this. On PC at this point, each of the ingredients, the True Knight's Edge and the True Excalibur, requires one broken hero sword. That's the case on all platforms. So you'll need 2 on PC, but if you're on console or mobile, you will need a third. You'll need to combine the True Excalibur plus the True Knight's Edge plus your third broken hero sword to make this Terrablade. But I'd say it's worth it. And you can, if you're lucky, get this fairly early in hard mode on console and mobile after you've defeated 1 mechanical boss, on PC after you've defeated the 3 mechanical bosses, but that's still fairly early. It does take a little bit of luck, which is why I didn't do it until now. After defeating Golem, going to the Jungle Temple, I was able to get solar tablets and summon the solar eclipse so that I could get those broken hero swords a little more easily, but you get the idea. That's how you do it. And I now have one of the most powerful swords in the game. You can see I got this awesome second best yo-yo in the game. I've got my Terra Blade, which is technically, it's a little less damage. Yo-yos have advantages. This has advantages. This has a projectile. Anyway, I've got some awesome weapons, suffice it to say. So, hope you liked the video, and hope that gives you an idea of how to go from, again, early game, how you can get those early swords, and then basically gather up all the swords you need to make some even better swords as you go through the game, which will carry you from start to finish, more or less. And that's the point. So thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.